So in 2020, we made $533. Going into 2021, that number, so $533, grew to $32,000. And then last year completely blew us away. We made $140,000 last year. And that translates into roughly about 4,000 handmade angels that we sold.
I want to share with you an incredible story of a creative woman who went from ditching her comfortable day job to starting her own business and taking that from nothing and never having started a business before to making six figures in annual sales selling handmade ornaments. Watch this video if you want to learn how to do that. Hi, my name is May and I help makers, artists, and designers make a living from selling their handmade products online. If you have a story of your own journey that you'd like to share and you think would be a great learning experience for us, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Creative Hive Co. Today, I want to share this story about Jen. It's a story I think many of you will relate to if you're a creative soul and you yearn to have a creative lifestyle that you can live on your own terms. It's a story about hard work, taking leaps of faith, and a great example for how everything happens for a reason. Tell me who you are and tell me more about your shop.
Hey, so my name is Jennifer Street, and I currently own the business Forged Flair. And it wasn't always that way. At the beginning of 2020, I started with a brand and a product line called Deja Doodle. And that was centered around the cruise ship industry. And that didn't go so well. The gist of it is Forged Flair was kind of started from the ashes of that in late, around August of 2020. And what we do now is we make handcrafted angel ornaments that we have branded Mother's Angels ornaments. And all the angel ornaments are essentially, they're very simple in nature as far as looks, but the really cool aspect of them is that they're very collectible, and every single center of the angel has a different stained glass style design. And it's really pretty. They really take shine once you hang them up. If you set them in a window, once light hits them, they really come to life. And our customers absolutely love them. They're so much fun to make.
Very cool, Jen. I feel like there is an opportunity for having some sort of Mother's Angels club for you guys. I'm sure you've already thought about it.
Oh, I know. And our customers, I know that they would absolutely love that because we have so many repeat customers, but we have such a unique product. And when we first created this, we thought that it would be more about birthday celebrations and gift giving at Christmas. I mean, they're ornaments, but the way that they're designed, we really intended them to be left out year round. What we didn't expect, however, is that most of our customers come to us as memorial gifts daily. We get emails and messages from customers and those that have received our angels just absolutely thanking us. They have some of the most touching and heartbreaking stories that you can imagine. And that does weigh on me. It is sad because I wish I could do more to comfort these people, but it is also, humbling to know that your creations have the ability to impact somebody's life so much.
That's a beautiful thing, and something that why I believe so much in handmade is like we can all make an impact in some way or another. So you've been on a really incredible journey.
When we ventured into this, it was kind of by accident. We were not quite sure what we wanted to do. We were still scrambling because of the demise of our previous brand that we just knew that we had to end because we didn't know when life was going to get back to normal, and we didn't know when cruise ships were going to start sailing again. And so the start of our business actually came about accidentally, which is sometimes the absolute best way for businesses to start. Because I feel sometimes you think about things too much. You can make it way too complicated. And the start of our business, actually, I credit my husband with this because his mother, well, her birthday was coming up, and her two absolute favorite things in the entire world are angels and calla lilies, and she collects both. She absolutely loves them. And we had just gotten a laser printer in July, and we hadn't really used it yet. Frankly, we were kind of scared to use it. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. It seemed like a good idea at the time. And he's like, "What? Let's go ahead and use it. Let's, fire it up. Let's see what we can make with it. And let me make something really special for my mom for her birthday." And so he designed the very first Mother's Angels, which again was an angel with a calla lily flower in the center. And when we gave it to her, she was ecstatic. She absolutely loved it. Of course, we had to show it off on social media to all of her friends and family. Everybody loved it. And we're like, you know what? We might have something here. Let's try this. It's different. A lot of laser cut designs, they're not so intricate. They're not so as involved as what we did. And it was something completely different. It's 3 layers. It's got wood on the front and the back, and then it's pieced together similar to a jigsaw puzzle. So the center layer has like an outer ring that holds everything together, and then each of the pieces of colored acrylic are set in there individually, and the front and the back pieces of wood hold everything together. So it's really intricate as far as how we put them together. They're very easy to make, and they're kind of fun to make. So, we like, playing with Legos and putting together puzzles. And so I feel like our days are just completely just playing. It's really the best gig. It is so much fun. But after that, we decided to take a chance. And while we did have a couple products at first, I think we had like 2 or 3 angel different designs that we made that were flowers. We initially started with digital downloads. I think that was one of the things where we weren't quite sure if we wanted to be the people that make ornaments or if we wanted to sell the templates, because templates seemed at the time that this would be easier to manage. Let's make something, quickly put it out there. We both have a graphic design background, so it's something that we were very familiar with. We also worked in production, so it seemed like the perfect fit. Honestly, it was probably about 6 months into that where we started doing really well, where we realized that we had such a unique product. And while I'm not regretful entirely that we did sell digital downloads, because that really gave us the funds to secure more business equipment and to really springboard the launch of this new venture, it was kind of sad in the fact that we did have a unique product, but by then a lot of people had already purchased a lot of our designs. And I honestly started to feel this little like voice inside of my head saying, "You're an artist. Why aren't you making these yourself? Why don't you make this your thing? This is your impact in the world." And so I made the difficult decision to completely stop digital downloads entirely in 2021. So we phased out everything. In January 2022, we completely were vested in handmade. So, it's now been a year of completely doing handmade items, and I'm not regretful at all that we took this leap. Everything we do, our customers are absolutely amazing. We just have so much fun.
Isn't that the best when you can love your job, love the people you work with, your customers, and then just have fun every single day? That is the best gift ever that you guys were able to create for yourselves.
Yeah, it really is.
Wow. So I do want to hear a little bit more of Deja Doodles because I feel like there's some journey there in how you decided that's not going anywhere and how you and your husband and that business evolved into what you have today.
So, going back to the end of 2019, previously I had been a shopper marketing designer for a really large, well known advertising and shopper marketing firm. I was a graphic designer. I did a lot of online branding experiences, shopper experiences, and marketing design for many of the world's top brands. It was a job that I had held for 11 years, and it was completely remote. So I didn't have to go into the office every day. And unfortunately, at the end of 2019, I lost my job. I was heartbroken, honestly. There was a lot of grieving to be had there. And so I gave myself time, because when you have a job that long, your friends, your coworkers, they're family at that point. I was scared, and so I didn't want to jump into something right away, because making a decision based on emotions is never the right thing to do. And so I gave myself time before I decided, now we got to get serious about your future. I had gone on a couple job interviews, I had received a couple offers, And the one side of my brain, the side that like safety and security and the known is screaming at me, take this, it's a great offer, this is gonna be wonderful. But it was kind of a blessing because the interviews, while they were at good companies, one was completely remote, but I knew there's just something about it. This isn't quite the job for me. And the other job that I had got an offer at wanted me on site all the time. And when you work remotely, and especially at the time, I had been working for like doing freelance as well on the side for over 15 years. And all my freelance clients, most of them I had never met. I had completely worked with them remotely as well. And in my mind, I'm one of these people, I don't want to be micromanaged. I just don't want somebody watching over my shoulder. So neither of those offers were very enticing. And so something was like, don't settle. There's something bigger for you. And so going back to the freelance idea, why not? Let's just do this full time. I've got clients. My clients all are word of mouth. I had to turn away clients because I was getting too many because I had a full-time job. And so why not do this full time? This is the great fit. It's something safe. It's something secure. It's on my own terms, right? And so that's the decision that I made because what led me here is I have an artistic background. Both my mother and my grandmother are artists. I grew up painting when I was a child. I minored in art in college. My whole life has been art centric. And so even with the freelance going on, I felt like I needed that. Like there was a void still in my life. I needed that creative, hands-on artistic outlet. But I didn't know what to do. I don't know how to do a business that's a handmade business. I can do freelance. I can do all of that day in and day out. That's comfortable. I'm fine with that. But handmade scared me. And I didn't know what I want to do. I don't have a clue. What do I want to make? Do I even want to make anything? Or is this just one of these side things that's like, oh, this seems like a good idea. And then a couple months later, you're like, what was I thinking? And around that same time, I came across the A Sale a Day class in an ad on Facebook. I was zombie scrolling on Facebook and I saw this ad pop up. And I was like, what the heck is this? It's a class for handmade artists? Is this legit? I'm such a skeptical person. So I have to know everything about everything before I make a decision. So honestly, I stalked you. I stalked Creative Hive. I stalked your site, Tiny Hands. I watched so many of the YouTube videos. And I did have the money for the class at the time, but I don't want to commit to this because I'm still in that fear-minded, mindset where I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from. And at the time, it was a lot of money to just be like, am I throwing this away? Oh my gosh, am I throwing this away to a scammer? I was so scared. And I'm so glad that my husband, who brings the rational minded side to the business, he's just like, if it turns out to be fake, whatever. But you've already done your research. Like this is a real person, this is a real class, this is a real business. How much more information do you need up front? And so he's like, just do it. Just do it. So I decided to take the plunge and I purchased the Sale a Day course. One, I was blown away by the amount of content. So I started the class, and that's actually how I built my first business, Deja Doodle. I'm one of these people that I like to make all the things, all the time, all the things. I don't care what it is. If it's t-shirts, I love doing t-shirt designs, right? I'm a graphic designer. What can I say? I love painting. My newest thing was paper craft, but I also loved cruising. How can I marry the two together? I specifically love Disney cruising. We're big Disney nerds. And what they do really cool on Disney cruises is everybody decorates their stateroom doors. What I really liked the idea of is customizable, almost like paper doll style, intricate artwork. So they're not kids, they weren't for playthings, but they were meant to represent families on board the ship. So where you could pick out like, here's your skin color, here's your hairstyle, here's your outfit that you want to wear. And it was all magnetic based where you could switch them out. And I had this whole idea and I loved it. It was a lot of fun to make. It was a lot of fun to design. I mean, I was constantly designing new things for the initial launch. And that honestly occupied most of my time in 2020. Then as the months dragged on, my heart kept sinking, but I've already invested so much time into this. My heart is really in this project. And I had gotten for the bodies of the Deja Doodles, which it was this wood product because I wanted the bodies to be durable. And I needed somebody that could cut precise templates. I have a scroll saw, I can cut out stuff from wood, but that's still, you're still hand manipulating that. And I wanted something that was machine produced just because they are paper doll type items. We quickly realized the need that we needed to get a laser cutter. In hindsight, it was a really good idea, but at the same time, everything's still closed. Why am I doing this? I'm starting to doubt myself. But as you know now, that's what led us to create the birthday gift for my husband's mother. And the rest is history.
What a journey.
Yeah,
And
it was.
and I can see how all the cruises are closed. Who's gonna buy these dolls? But I love that idea. I feel like there is so much potential and maybe in the future revisiting that, regardless of whether it would be applicable for cruises or not. I feel like there's probably a lot more applications to it than just cruise staterooms.
I guess if nothing else, that was my hobby. And ultimately, again, it led to something just amazing.
Yes, because now you have this laser printer that became kind of the foundation of your production for Forged Flare and your Mother's Angels.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason.
It really does. And it might take you years, it might take you months, but it really does. Everything happens for a reason. And, I say it's been 3 years, but honestly, our business has really only been functional since about September of 2020. And in that time, it's amazing to see us go from mostly digital download heavy to a mixture of digital download and handmade items to now completely handmade items. And I feel that we needed that journey. We had to find ourselves because, you know, if we had just gone to handmade, I'd always wonder what if on the digital downloads. The digital downloads taught me a lot about what I don't want to do moving forward. And again, I don't regret it because it is part of my journey. It is part of our story. We made $140,000 last year. Ultimately, I think that last year was just amazing because we were selling on our own website, which is our primary source of income. We sell on Etsy. I'm not one of these people that want to spend all my time on Etsy. It's great for the purpose that it serves, tapping to other people's audiences. But I knew I didn't want to make that the foundation of my business. I wanted a strong foundation. In September, we got on Amazon, and $7,000 of that came from Amazon alone. So, this year, our goal is to double that number. I'm not quite sure if we'll make it, but it's always good to have some sort of vision. Even though, if I could be 100% honest, like last year, we didn't really have a goal. We didn't know what to expect. We always like to look at the numbers every month and like celebrate or cry into our pillow. It just depends each month. But at the end of the year, I cannot believe that we did that. We did that. We did that. And so this year is really exciting because last year was a lot of trial and error for us. What's working, what doesn't work, and then testing. And then this year it's like, okay, we know what our bad months are, we know what our good months are. We're really going to go gung ho for the good months. We're not going to invest as much into the slow months. And so it's worked out well so far for us this year. We did find out that Mother's Day by far is our second biggest holiday, but I have a great assistant, and tomorrow I'm actually interviewing a second assistant. So, yes, we have gotten to that point where it's no longer just me doing all the things. My first assistant helped us last year, right before Mother's Day, and she has just been absolutely great to lean on for the rest of this crazy ride that we've been on. We now realize we need a little bit more help. So let's bring some more people on. And the great thing about our ornaments is that once you learn how to do one, the rest are pretty much easy to figure out. So I don't have to train somebody how to make one and then a different design. So that's the blessing in disguise. But yeah, and they love it too. So that's great.
That's so exciting, Jen. I'm predicting this year you're going to double what you did last year.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm trying, like, to me it just seems like such a big number. Like $280,000 is such a big number. And I'm a very analytics based person. So I look at that and in my mind, I'm like, that's like 8,000 ornaments. I'm like, how? When? I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's like 100 ornaments a day for the next so many weeks. Like, what? So I think it'll be doable. I really do. And if it isn't, if we fall short of that, I really am trying to give myself some grace because that's another thing that you have to quickly learn is that you aren't perfect. You're going to make so many mistakes and you cannot beat yourself up. You have to learn from it and you have to move on. That's a tough life lesson to learn, but it's a very important one.
I feel like I always tell people running a business and having started businesses has been such a big life lesson in shaping who I am today too. Being able to just pick yourself up when something fails and just, brush off the dust and keep going. It's constant that on and on. But then when you do make those wins, it's so important to celebrate that. So I'm so glad to hear that you guys do take the time to do that because I don't think enough people take the time to do that. And I believe that it's so important to keep things going because if you don't stop and see and smell the flowers, the roses, you don't realize how far you've come. And
No, no. And
yeah,
and that was one of the things that, I learned quickly early in 2020, even just taking the class. So even before getting into what I wanted to create at the very, very beginning, I was still kind of beaten up. I was still, kind of in that weird period of mourning and my days were weird. It's like, I'm used to my schedule getting up. I go to work, I work my 8 hours, I had my schedule. All of that was taken from me in a day. And so some days it was really hard to get out of bed and just face the day. And I had a major self-talk with myself and I said, okay, what we're going to do here is you're going to pick yourself up, you're going to move on with your life. Your job is not who you are. Yes, you loved it, but that's not your definition. You're much greater for this. You have a purpose. And I consciously made the decision that if I could do one thing every day that furthers my business, just one thing, just let everything else go. If you need to take a day for your mental health, you take a day for your mental health. If that one thing is posting on Instagram, great. If that one thing is listing a new product, great. If you do two things, great, even better. But you know what? Just give yourself some grace and just, again, just let it go. It's a marathon. It's every day, slow and steady. Everything that you do builds to the next thing. And before you know it, that $533 turns into $140,000, and that 140 is going to turn into 280, right? Like, come on, yes. Starting your business is a lot of soul searching. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, a lot more hours than I thought it was going to be. And you might be like, oh gosh, this is too much for me. No, it's not. If I can do it, you totally can do it. Because you know what? I was working crazy hours. I was working nights and weekends for my previous job. And that was for somebody else. But the satisfaction that you get when you put that same time and energy into your own business, I can't even describe how much better you feel about everything. It's so satisfactory to look back. You might not see the changes in either yourself or your business day by day, but looking back to 2020 to see how far we've come, that's still amazing to me. I'm so proud because you've had to overcome the whole, like, your friends and family kind of thinking, well, that's a cute hobby that you have. And that stings a little bit because I'm like, one, very expensive hobby, not only financially, but mentally. It's like you give so much if this is just a hobby. And I don't know many hobbyists that dedicate as much time and energy as I have into this business. But Yeah, I've had to overcome that mindset. And it doesn't come from a place of hate. Like everyday people, your friends, they don't know what you do unless they've been there. They don't have a clue. And that's okay. That is totally okay. We all have our own experiences. But it's amazing having such a community of artists in Creative Hive that support you and they sympathize when you've had a bad day. They're there for you to help you celebrate when you've had a good day. It's just such a great community.
I love it too. I love the community that we've been able to foster. And I think so much of that has just been the kind of people that we've been attracting. I love everything that you said there. I do think a lot of people come into this journey of starting a business with like those rosy eyed glasses and thinking it's going to be so magical and so wonderful. And I'm always very careful when I see people like that because I'm like, this is going to be a really, really hard thing that you're going to do. But as you've very articulately communicated, even though you're working more hours and doing more work, it is so much more fulfilling because it's all for you and your life and your family and not for someone else. And that is indescribable. That just makes so much more of a difference in why we choose to do this and why we choose to work weekends
Yes.
and why we love thinking about our business. Even though it's work, it's so fun and that's what we're passionate about. And you've been so great, Jen. I always see you in the group calls and in the forums helping other people out. So it's because of people like you too that make the community so positive and so nurturing. So I wanted to thank you for that while we were on that subject. Going back to a sale a day, what would you say are the top three things that you really took away from that program?
So the top three things is definitely start with a solid foundation. That made all the difference. I know it sounds straightforward, but a lot of people really don't consider this. When going into business, you think, oh, I need to come up with a product that I like to make, that's, something that's going to be fun for me to do. And while all of that is very important, because you're going to be doing this every day, you don't want to do something that you hate, but you really need to start building your business on a strong foundation. So you need to back all the way up, like to the very, very beginning. And you need to put a lot more thought into it than what is it that I want to make? There's a lot of considerations there. So you need to have a strong foundation for your business. I was one of the lucky people that I didn't have a product at the beginning of taking a sale a day. And I literally built Deja Doodle as I was taking the course. And I got most of the way through the course before I made that decision to start Forged Flare. And because I had such a solid foundation built, rebranding, I already knew what all the modules had taught. So going back and backtracking, let me tell you, it's a lot easier the second time. So the packaging that I had created, I was able to easily rebrand the packaging because I had already done all the research. I knew who I wanted my packaging vendors to be. A lot of the suppliers I already knew about. I had done a lot of my pricing. I knew how to do pricing at that point. So yes, it was backtracking and I did have to rewatch a couple of the modules, but that was what's great about it is you can go back at any time and reference any of previous modules that may be a good refresher or may not have been as applicable to you and your journey at that time. And so that was very helpful for me. And instead of taking all the weeks to do it, I think I got it done in like a couple weeks. So all of this stuff going back, it's like, okay, it's, at that point I had already built a website on Shopify. So I had struggled the first time around setting everything up. I had already had my email list built out. So rebranding that and just copying and pasting into a different, like I was still using the same email company that I was using, but I had to create a new brand. And then I pretty much copied and pasted all of that over, all of the logic, all of the flows. So, that starting from a strong foundation is probably the number one thing that was beneficial from a sale a day. Pricing was very important too. So, if you're like me, it's challenging, but it's also very scary. And, I come from a background where I did freelance design and I knew I wasn't the cheapest freelancer. But I also knew that I didn't need to be the cheapest freelancer. Like I knew my self-worth. And when you go into a product-based business, it's a little bit different because you as an artist have preconceptions about, oh, I can't charge this because nobody's going to buy it. Why would they buy it? And I don't think I ever had that mentality of pricing myself compared to Walmart or Target, but I know a lot of artists do that, and you can't price yourself according to big box retailers because there's a lot that goes into making those products that is not even comparable to what you do as a handmade business. And so you really have to pay attention and do the work of pricing your product. So it was not fun. I'm not going to lie. It was not fun figuring out, okay, here's a sheet of wood. Okay, I can fit so many ornaments onto this. Okay, can I make anything from the scraps of these? Okay, and having to just get granular with everything that came in as a supply to my office. Having to go through that, it took a lot of time, but that's very crucial. Know your worth. Don't ever give yourself like saying, oh, nobody's going to buy this because you know what? They will. When we started, I think we were pricing our angels at 20 or $25. And since 2020 to 2023, we're now at $44. So we've had to come up quite a bit, but there's a lot that goes into running a small business that you may not know even starting out. You might even think you have all of your pricing covered starting out, but then it's like you quickly realize, no, this isn't going to work for us. We don't overcharge, but what we do is we're realistic about our prices. So we know our material costs, we know what our time is worth, we know the quality of our products, and we've never been apologetic about it. So don't be apologetic about it. Never apologize for your prices. Your prices are your prices. And I promise your customers are out there. They're going to appreciate what you make. And the fact that they're handmade and they're special, they're going to love that. And so always talk about what makes your products unique. That's extremely important. So, yes, price yourself accordingly. It's going to be so much better for you down the road. And then the third thing I think that my takeaway is from a sale a day is the importance of email lists. Going into this, I love getting on social media. I overshare on my personal all the time. Like I'm just one of these people. I love seeing my friends online. I love reading about their families and their pets and everything else in between. I love it, right? And so the natural inclination is you have to live on social media. And I did think that going into starting my business. And it's like the more followers you have, the more successful you are. And through a sale a day and in my own personal experience, that's not true. That's not true at all. You do not need to live on social media. I do like talking to my customers on social media. I do like interacting with them. But as far as having a successful business, we do run ad campaigns and I try to post regularly, although right now I don't think I've posted since Valentine's Day. But that's okay. It's like when I make a post, my customers all like comment, they interact. I do post a lot more in stories, little snippets of our life. I try to come across as a real person, and my customers really appreciate that. But what I did learn is the fact that email marketing is 30,000 times more important. So through a sale a day, I was able to set up flows, the automated flows that you set up. So if somebody makes a purchase from your website, you've got like a thank you series that goes out telling a little bit about you and your business. And then we just got all these different automated campaigns. And I set all those up really easily. Thank you for including that, May. Like you are totally a goddess. That saved my life. There's a lot of logic involved with that, and it's hard to open up a program and see a blank slate. It's kind of again deer in the headlights. You're like, ah. So I set up all my flows relatively easy for Deja Doodle, and I was able to transfer those over to Forge Flare. But beyond the automated flows and the occasional sales email, I was really bad about sending out emails to my customers. And I didn't want to do it. I hate writing. Let's be honest. Writing is not my strong point. However, last year I made the decision, okay, we're going to grin and bear it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start writing emails. And so at the end of last year, I decided we're going to target 2 emails a week. So since October, I send out 2 emails a week. And that's not necessarily to everybody on my list. I've got targeted lists according to what works, again, best for my business. I send out emails on Tuesdays and Fridays. I might send another email in there if we've got like a special promotion or an important announcement, like the shop's going to be closed or something like that. But I've held that up. So as much as I hate it, I've held it up. Granted, I'm supposed to have one go out tomorrow, so I'm going to be stuck writing one this afternoon. But it's not so bad. And what I do not do is make everything salesy. So what I like to do, most of the emails that I send out twice a week are educational emails to my customers. I've started writing a blog, and that's something I never wanted to do either, but that's actually been very beneficial. And a blog, the approach that I've taken to writing a blog is customer education, pretty much first and foremost, including one of our very best articles was called "You're Too Expensive," which is a comment that I hear over and over and over again. It used to bother me, but I sat down and I didn't want to come from a place of hate or snark. I wanted to come from a matter of factual place. So it was tough to write because it's almost like a taboo subject, but I wanted a way to address that, especially on our ads, because you pay a lot of money for ads, and then somebody will comment that you're too expensive, and then others may dogpile on top of that, and it gets really discouraging. And I also come from the place where I don't like to delete comments on ads, whether good or bad. So I wanted a way to address it, and whether they read it or not, that's up to them, but at least that information would be there. So people who have commented, I've been able to post a link that gets them to go to the website and then gets to see, from my point of view, what goes into making a handmade product. And the reason that I brought that article up is the fact that I've got such a positive response from that. I've actually gotten several people that have emailed me that have apologized for thinking of that and said that they would give our products a second look because they had no idea what goes into running a small business. And then that article actually ranked on the top of Shopify, like for several weeks as far as like blogs go. And so I was really proud of that, because for somebody who hates writing and then writing about such a controversial subject, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's the type of content that I put in emails, a link to maybe a new blog post. It might be behind the scenes, like what's a day in the life in the studio look like? Or, here's a sneak peek of an upcoming product. So, I like to become a real person, because I find we are pretty marketing heavy, and a lot of people don't trust us at first because there's a lot of scammers online. And if you've never heard of us or our brand, I feel that it's our responsibility to calm those people's fears and educate. And so I try to do it in the gentlest way possible. And so I feel like that's really helped our business, especially this last year. Doing the 2 emails a week have really, made us real to our customers. So it works.
I think that is so genius, how you turn the blog into a platform for you to educate people and then using that in your ads. When you shared that with us in that group coaching session one day, after the group coaching session, I was like, Peter, my husband, I was like, look at what Jen did. We can learn so much from her.
Yeah,
And
I love, like, what was it, a couple days ago, and I haven't sent this out to my email subscribers yet, but one of the challenges that you face as a small business owner is somebody will sign up for your email list. And then when they decide that they don't want to hear from you anymore, they mark you as spam. And I hate that, because that does a lot of damage to your sender credibility, which there's a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes on email that's just so technical. But I actually just wrote a blog post about that as well. And so I don't go into all the technical stuff as much as, high surface level stuff. I'm talking about, it's okay. If you don't like us, I'm fine with, like, it's okay. I'm not offended that you don't want to receive our emails anymore. And, but I do talk about kind of email etiquette, that it's rude to sign up, confirm that you want to receive an email, maybe get a discount, maybe that's why you wanted to sign up, and then promptly mark your emails as spam after that. because again, I don't think that people think about it that way. I've had so many people tell me that our blog posts have opened their eyes to a lot of things that they weren't aware of. It's just a nice casual way of educating people without screaming at them or pointing fingers at them. It's almost like my therapy session because I'll write about topics that really bother me as an artist or that might get under my skin a little bit. But I like to turn it around and be like, okay, what's a nice way to educate somebody about this? And I think it's working. I think that people are appreciative of it. Yes, and it's gotten positive reception. So, yay.
Yeah, for sure. And I can see how to, as you said, how it can be an outlet for yourself too, with like
yes.
just putting your frustrations out there. But no, hey, this is actually an asset now that you have for your business that you can use as content too. So smart. Okay, Jen. So I don't have any more questions except to ask if you would recommend a sale a day to other people. And if so, who would you recommend it to and why?
A sale a day is probably the best investment that I've ever made for myself, because when I made it, it was for myself. I didn't have a business yet. And I would recommend it to both established businesses as well as somebody that's floundering and may not know what it is that they want to do when they grow up. So, and I can definitely attest to that because I'm living proof that the course works. It's very helpful to have a community that's such a strong, supportive community beyond just taking the modules and just like one by one and going through everything. I mean, you learn so much, but to have that feeling of family being there that's so supportive, you can't put a price tag on that. It's scary making the leap into business, whether it's a side thing or if it's your full-time dream. Maybe you're in a position like I was where you've lost a job and now you're just like, now what? What do I do with my life? And Creative Hive's A Sale a Day really helped me pick up the pieces and put a focus on my life and literally helped me build my business. It was through A Sale a Day that I did everything. I mean, I started my business quite literally through the class. And as far as people that are already established in their businesses, I know that there's a lot of content in there that will help you because you might be successful, you may not be successful, but I can guarantee that if you just take a pause on what you're doing now and you open your mind to different ways of operating your business, go back to the very first course, watch it one by one, make sure that everything is set up properly in your business. It's great because it's a good reference if you ever need to go back and revisit different topics. We are an established, successful business. So I can kind of speak from both ends that, yes, you're just starting out, A Sale a Day is amazing. If you're an established business, it's there to just, if nothing else, it's got a wonderful community. You can ask questions anytime. The mentors, other makers, they're all there for you. I would absolutely recommend it pretty much for anybody that is in a handmade business.
Oh, Jen. I can't. I can't. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I cannot tell you how much you have lifted my soul this morning, Jen.
Yay! No, I think it was so funny because Chris and I still joke. We still go back to those early days where I'm just like, who is May? And is she a scammer? Like, it is so funny because you're clearly not a scammer. Without you, we would not be here. So I can't even begin to thank you enough.
Wasn't that amazing? I love learning how other creatives are making it. I mean, I've been doing this since 2006 and I'm still learning so much from you guys all the time. So I hope this was as inspiring for you as it was for me. And if you're curious about this A Sale a Day program that Jen talks about, DM me on Instagram at Creative Hive Co with the message A Sale a Day and I can tell you more about it. Let me know in the comments what some highlights were for you from watching this. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more handmade business tips.